She was ready to walk away from the wedding until he whispered, "This must be destiny." The church bells rang, each clang echoing ominously through the crisp autumn air. Judith stood at the altar, her heart racing like a runaway train. She could feel the stares of 100 eyes burning a hole in her back, their whispers slithering through the air like poisonous smoke. The lace of her gown felt suffocating, heavy with expectations she could no longer bear. Just as she turned to make her escape, her fiancé's voice sliced through the din, "This must be destiny." It startled her, not just the words but the tone, deep and resonant, as if he could see straight into her very soul. Time froze for a breath. The air thickened. Judith's pulse quickened, and an inexplicable chill pulsed through her. Was he really suggesting they were meant to be? She glanced at him, disheveled yet striking in his tailored suit, his eyes narrowing with intensity. All around, the candles flickered, shadows danced mysteriously on the walls. The sense of foreboding charged the atmosphere, heightened by the strange flickering on the porch, a quick flash of light followed by darkness. People hushed, brows furrowed, as if something unspeakable loomed just out of sight. Judith's gut twisted, something was off. What was it about his voice that struck her? Was it truly love, or simply a trap set by fate? As her brain spun, the room began to tilt. She could hear the faint rustling of her aunt's crinoline dress in the back, see her mother clutching a handkerchief, tears pooling in her eyes. Judith's chest tightened. "Judith!" He called softly, stepping closer, as if testing the waters between them. The crowd had turned into a loud, swirling storm of murmurings, brewing discontent and concern. Were they judging her? But no, there was something about his eyes still pleading, still hopeful. Then, her best friend, Miranda, who had been a rock through the chaos, caught her gaze and mouthed, "Don't do it." Judith's heart sank. Would she disappoint everyone? But more importantly, would she disappoint herself? Suddenly, the church doors swung open with a loud creak, revealing a gust of icy wind that sent shivers racing down her spine. An eerie presence filled the space. Shadows flickered strangely across the aisle, and a chill crept over Judith. Was she meant to stay, or leave? Did destiny truly have a hand in this? Or was she merely an unwilling pawn in a game she didn't even understand? Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. Judith felt her heart pounding in her ears. The light on the porch flickered again, more wild this time, casting a strange glow over the congregation. All eyes focused on her, the silence screamed louder than any shouts. She stood poised on the edge of everything: love, obligation, self-preservation. What did he mean by destiny? Before she could think, another shattering sound erupted from outside, a crash that sent a wave of whispers escalating through the crowd. What was happening? Judith took a step back, her fingers trembling against the fabric of her dress. This was not the day she had envisioned. This was chaos. And as she stared into those eyes, haunted and hopeful, she wondered, was she truly about to step into the unknown? What awaited her on the other side? Judith's breath caught in her throat as the crowd collectively turned towards the church doors. The whispers morphed into gasps of confusion and shock, each breath feeling like a dagger in her chest. The crash outside had shattered the fragile tranquility of the ceremony, and the icy wind curled through the space, leaving a biting chill on her bare arms. "Judith, please," her fiancé murmured, his voice low but urgent. He reached toward her, that look in his eyes deepening, weaving both tension and longing. Was this love she felt, or something more sinister? The flickering light danced mischievously, hiding shadows that seemed to crawl from every corner of the ornate church. Behind her, the church doors opened wider with another creak, and a tall figure emerged, stepping hesitantly into the dim light. Judith squinted, struggling to make out the features against the backdrop of the glowing stained glass behind them. It was a woman, breathless and wild-eyed, face pale as if she'd glimpsed a ghost. "Stop the wedding!" she shouted, her voice piercing through the air, filled with raw desperation. Judith's heart raced anew. Who was this woman? Why did she look so haunted? The congregation erupted into chaos. Murmurs turned into shouts as Judith's gaze darted from the mysterious figure to her fiancé, whose expression morphed from hope to anger. The blood drained from his face. "What is the meaning of this?" he demanded, frustration boiling over. "Judith, listen to me," the woman pleaded, stepping further into the church. The flickering lights played tricks on Judith's mind, blurring reality with intrigue. "You can't marry him. He's not who you think he is." A wave of confusion rolled over the crowd. Judith's instincts screamed at her to run, to escape this crumbling facade of a perfect day. "What do you mean?" She felt a lump rising in her throat. "He's involved in things you can't even begin to understand," the woman gasped, trying to calm her racing heart. The air felt thicker, charged with fear and uncertainty. "You think this is destiny? This is a trap, it's all planned." Judith took a step back. "What are you talking about?" "This is my life." Every word felt heavy on her tongue. In this moment of chaos, her entire world felt as if it were unraveling. The woman hesitated, glancing between Judith and the man she was meant to marry. "I was once where you are." I didn't listen either until it was too late. Judith's heart sank deeper into her chest. She was trapped between loyalty and her own instincts. The energy in the room shifted, the eyes of family and friends narrowing, suspicion creeping in like a dark fog. Her mother's tear-streaked face flashed in her mind, the weight of expectation pressing heavily on her shoulders. The stranger leaned closer, urgency radiating from her. "He's dangerous. You deserve better." With each word, Judith felt the crack deepen in the veneer of her life. What if there was truth in the woman's words? Was she really ready to gamble her future with a man whose secrets could swallow her whole? And in that moment, the world jolted. Another crash rang through the air, this time from within the church, a loud bang reverberating against the stone walls. The candles sputtered wildly, and Judith's heart raced. It was no longer just about love or destiny. Something dark loomed, and it was inching closer. "What's happening?" Judith cried out, her voice filled with the rising panic. She needed to know the truth, but at what cost? And just like that, the lights flickered once more, plunging the church into darkness. The crowd gasped collectively, and Judith felt her world spin. In the suffocating quiet, her mind screamed what awaited her in the shadows. Judith's pulse drummed in her ears, a relentless storm consuming her thoughts. Darkness engulfed the church, smothering any flicker of light. The hushed crowd seemed to hold its breath, a tapestry of confusion and fear woven tightly together. A cold void wrapped around Judith, clinging to her skin and wrapping its icy fingers around her heart. "Judith!" The urgency echoed from her fiancé, slicing through the stillness. "Stay with me." His voice was like a lighthouse in this sudden sea of despair, but doubt clawed at her insides. The woman no, the stranger had a rare clarity in her eyes. What secrets lingered just behind the shadows? Where had the sudden crash come from? Her mind spiraled with questions, echoing the loud thudding of her heart. "Get back!" the woman screamed, turning as she looked toward the now darkened entrance. Judith followed her gaze, instinct screaming. Was danger creeping in like a predator instead of a guest? She steadied her breathing, attempting to push past the grip of fear. The shadows shifted. Out of them emerged a figure, tall and sinister, striding into the flickering haze. Judith's breath caught again, this time with dread. It wasn't just the darkness, it was the intent that radiated from the stranger. "Silence!" the figure commanded, voice deep and gravelly like a forgotten grave. The tension thickened, Judith felt it in her very bones. He stepped closer, illuminated only by the last flickers of the candles, revealing a cruel smile that danced on his lips. "Who are you?" Judith managed to stammer, her stomach twisting with every word. The man chuckled, a sound devoid of warmth, filled with self-assurance. "I'm here for the bride," he said, each word a shard of ice piercing the air. The congregation gasped collectively, a ripple of fear coursing through the gathered bodies. "Leave her alone," her fiancé shouted, darting forward, placing himself protectively in front of Judith. The sheer volume of his voice momentarily pierced the fear shrouding them. "Ah, but we both know it's too late for that," the stranger replied, his voice dripping with malice. He stepped back slightly, keeping the distance but still radiating menace. "This wedding, it's all part of a game, and you, Judith, are the most important piece." Judith's breath hitched. "What game?" The woman behind her took a step forward, her urgency giving her strength. "You're not safe, Judith. These memories you've built, the trust you place in him, it's all a facade." Intense emotion filled Judith. Desperation and confusion collided within her, churning into a tempest. Her fiancé's expression flickered between anger and concern, though his warrior's posture couldn't hide his uncertainty. "Don't listen to her, Judy," he told her, voice taut with tension. "You know me. Trust me." "Do I?" Judith whispered, eyes wide. The doubts unleashed clawed at her heart. Was it possible that the woman was telling the truth? Was her life a stage with a plot twist she hadn't been prepared for? "Like I said, Judith, it's too late," the man echoed, a triumphant gleam in his eye. "The choice matters little now. You'll join us or you'll regret it. The choice is yours." The church seemed to constrict around her, walls closing in as her mind raced. She was staring not just at her fiancé, but at splintered paths of possibility. Each decision was a fork leading deeper into danger, and amidst her tumult, the lights flickered back on, a startling brilliance flooding the room. Judith squinted, vision adjusting. Everything blurred as her heart thudded wildly, the moment suspended in time, but the man was gone. Judith glanced wildly around, confusion and dread intertwined. An unseen grip tightened around her throat, the oppressive silence screaming louder than the truth. What had just happened? What dark secret had she unknowingly stepped into? And more importantly, who could she trust now when everything felt like a treacherous game? The moment hung heavily in the air as new chaos began outside the church doors, more crashes echoing across the night. Judith's heart raced, her breath shallow as the sound of chaos crumbled the fragile moment of clarity. Crashes erupted outside, splintering the tension in the air, and the church trembled underfoot. She hesitated a moment longer, face to face with the flickering reality of her life, a life that felt fractured in that single breath. "Judy, come on." Her fiancé's voice cut through her fog, panic tinging the edges. He reached for her hand, the warmth of his touch grounding her momentarily. But doubt still knotted in her stomach, burrowing deeper. "Do we keep this wedding? Is that what we're fighting for?" She murmured, almost wanting him to say no. "Of course we do." He stepped closer, urgency clawing at his expression. "We'll figure this out together. Just trust me." The crowd shifted nervously, whispers weaving through the tension. Judith's eyes darted around, seeking the woman in the shadows who had dared to say what Judith dared not admit. Somewhere, beneath the fear, a flicker of clarity emerged. The woman had spoken the truth, but as she grasped for that truth, the swirling chaos outside escalated. People began to scream, a rising cacophony that echoed through the church and stitched dread into the fabric of their reality. Judith's heart raced not just with uncertainty but with an undeniable instinct to survive, to flee from whatever darkness awaited them. Suddenly, the heavy doors burst open, and a gust of cold wind surged into the church. The figure from the shadows stood there again, framed by the moonlight streaming through the entrance, a silhouette of horror and intrigue. He grinned, a wolf among sheep, savoring their confusion. Judith instinctively shivered, pulling closer to her fiancé. "Come now. Don't you want to see?" He taunted, gesturing for them to approach. "The show has just begun." "Show? What do you mean?" Judith pressed, her voice trembling now, caught between fear and indignation. That he threw his head back, laughing, a throaty sound that reverberated against the church walls. "Your friends outside, they're only beginning to make a choice for you. You can join us, or, well, let us just say, refusal has its consequences. The congregation gasped, uncertainty rippling through them like the tide pulling back before a storm. Judith could feel tension creeping back into the air again, like a shadow stalking them all. Judy, we can't let him win, her fiancé urged, his grip tightening as he focused fiercely on her, determination in his eyes. Whatever he wants from you, we give it to him. We fight together. Step outside and see for yourselves, the man crooned, the grin fading slightly as he leaned closer, lowering his voice like a whisper. Only then will the truth reveal itself. Heart thumping, Judith felt the weight of the decision crushing her spirit. Did they dare confront whatever nightmare lay beyond those doors? The voices outside had grown louder now, punctuated with shouts and frenzies, cries for help mixed with laughter that chilled her to the bone. Each sound felt like a demand, urging her to choose between stepping into the murky unknown or clinging desperately to the hope of safety behind these sacred walls. Judith, the woman's voice emerged from the fringe of the gathering, suddenly urgent again. If you want to break free, you need to confront your past. Only then can you see the truth. The words hung in the air, each one heavy with meaning, pulling at Judith's chest. Could she really face the shadows? Judith stammered, the weight of choice growing unbearable. Before she could finish her thought, the lights flickered ominously again, plunging them into near darkness, leaving only that wicked grin glimmering in the gloom. Would she take the leap and face the danger outside? Or would she let herself be a pawn in this twisted game? Before she could decide, a new crash echoed from beyond the church, reverberating with a finality that screamed for her attention. The choice was made for her. And as the dust settled in the muted light, Judith's world tilted dangerously on its axis. What's waiting for her just beyond the threshold? Judith's heart hammered in her chest, the cacophony outside merging into a single, terrifying roar. The church held its breath as fear constricted around them, and uncertainty hung heavily in the air. She glanced at her fiancé, his face pale yet resolute. Whatever happens, I'm with you, he whispered, his voice a fragile lifeline. Judith nodded, though her mind swirled with questions. The man in the doorway leaned against the frame, a malevolent predator poised for the hunt. Step outside, and you'll be free. Embrace the chaos. It's what awaits you. The crowd shifted, their collective anxiety tangling in the air like a thick fog. Judith could feel the tension suffocating her. What kind of freedom lay beyond that door? Judy, we can't trust him, her fiancé spat, ready to protest against the dark allure of what lay beyond. Don't let him dictate your choices. The man chuckled, low and dangerous. But isn't that just what you want? To break the chains of your carefully crafted life? The wretched bonds of tradition? Judith's brow furrowed. This isn't about tradition. It's about love. The word felt hollow against everything crashing down around them. Is it? The shadowy figure stepped closer, his grin widening like a crescent moon. Love often wears a mask of duty, and look where that brought you. The whispers intensified among the crowd, accusations and doubts seeping into their hearts. Judith clenched her fists. Did they really see her wedding as a prison? What truth had the woman in the shadows spoken of? The lights overhead flickered again, casting eerie shadows across the marble floor. Outside, the storm of sound crescendoed, and Judith's resolve wavered. Maybe confronting the past could be the key, she thought, conviction battling against her instinct to stay hidden. Together? Her fiancé's eyes searched hers, a plea buried in his gaze. Or apart? The figure on the threshold hissed, his eyes glinting with a hunger for chaos. The choice is yours. Will you choose love or surrender to the darkness? Judith suddenly felt a surge of defiance. With trembling hands, she stepped towards the door, her fiancé's grip tightening painfully around her wrist. Judy, don't. He gasped, desperation leaking from his voice. I need to know. She shot back, fighting the terror gripping her throat. But as she reached the entrance, a swirling gust of wind flared around her like a tempest, sending chills down her spine. The moonlight cast grotesque shapes through the entrance, shadows reaching out as if to pull her in. "I can't let you," her fiancé pleaded, yet Judith felt an impulse stronger than fear. What if she murmured, peering outside? The scene unfolding was like something pulled from a nightmare. Faces twisted in agony, unified in primal chaos, torn between freedom and despair. Judith's heart stuttered at the horror and fascination mingling there. With a final glance back at her fiancé, his jaw clenched tight, she made her choice. "I have to face this, no matter how terrifying." As she stepped over the threshold, the chaotic sounds morphed into a single voice, her own, echoing in a symphony of fury and fear. Suddenly, silence crashed like a wave, washing over the church as every pair of eyes outside turned to her. Judith's breath caught. "Welcome back, dear." The man greeted, his smile turning sinister. "Let the game begin." Fear unfurled inside her even as a spark ignited in her chest. What was happening? And in that moment, as she faced the abyss, the ground cracked beneath her feet, threatening to swallow her whole. What sinister truths lay hidden in the shadows of this madness? The moment Judith crossed into the swirling chaos, the darkness embraced her like an old friend, stirring feelings of dread and excitement intertwined. The howls of the crowd seemed to lull, replaced by an eerie stillness that demanded her attention. Ahead, the man in the doorway stood taller, the shadows clinging to him like a cloak. "You were chosen for this moment, Judith," he said, his voice oily and smooth. "You're standing on the threshold of revelation." Judith's heart raced, each beat echoing in the silence that surrounded her. The faces of the crowd, once contorted in agony, now reflected curiosity, as if she were the missing piece of a puzzle. She glanced at her fiancé, now a mere shadow in the doorway, his expression twisted with fear and betrayal. "What do you mean?" Judith asked, her voice quaking. "What is this?" "Look around you," the man urged, gesturing emphatically. "This is not just chaos, it's the liberating truth, a taste of what lies beyond your confines. The choice to escape the ordinary world has been thrust upon you." For a fleeting moment, she felt a rush of exhilaration. The adrenaline coursed through her veins, igniting a fire within, feeding off the energy of the outside world where all limits were eviscerated. But behind that exhilaration lurked a shadow of dread. Is this freedom, or is it madness? The words stumbled out of her mouth unbidden, and the man laughed, a sound that crackled like a cold flame. Madness? Perhaps. But also clarity. To see the truth is to embrace your wildest dreams and darkest fears. He stepped closer, intensity burning in his gaze. "And are you not tired of living in the shadows, Judith? Putting on a smiling mask while your soul withers?" She felt the weight of his words. Every smile she had forced lately was a reminder of her impending nuptials, her role as a dutiful daughter, a compliant fiancé. Suddenly, that life seemed suffocating. As a chorus of murmurs built around her, Judith braced herself. "What do I need to do?" she asked, determination creeping into her voice. "Unravel the chains that bind you," he shouted. "Face your past. Embrace your anger, your sorrow, and your passion." The crowd surged, pressing forward with an unexpected energy, pushing her to the center, encircling her not with judgment, but with an eager anticipation that electrified the air. Judith could see herself reflected in their eyes, beautiful, wild, yet undeniably shattered. "Let it go." The man's voice blared, rising above the chant. "You must let your old life crumble." The ground around her splintered again, and she staggered, feeling the complex layer of her identity peel away. Judith's thoughts clashed like storm clouds. Was he right? Was her predictable life a prison? Or was he the one leading her into a darker abyss? With her heart hammering a savage rhythm, she closed her eyes, drawn to the twisted idea of freedom he held out like a mirage. With a breath, she started to speak, but the darkness roared in protest, battling for control. "Judith." The familiar voice pulled her back. Her fiancé surged forward from the shadows, desperation etched across his features. "Don't listen to him. This is not freedom, this is manipulation." She felt the threads of anger tangle inside her, a fire that begged for release. So, what if I want to be free? What if I want to see what lies beyond this life we've planned? As the crowd gasped, her fiancé's face paled, searching for a spark of the woman he loved. You're stronger than this. You don't need this chaos to find yourself. The noise outside grew monstrous. Judith opened her eyes, feeling real terror mingling with exhilaration. She stood poised at the center of their tumult, surrounded by fire and shadows, torn between love and liberation. The moment hung suspended, a frayed thread on the edge of unraveling. What would she choose, and at what cost? A final snap from within broke the tension. As she reached out, the ground trembled, and the man laughed, the sound echoing ominously. Welcome to your destiny, Judith. This is only the beginning. Could she hold on to herself as she plunged deeper into this abyss? The true game was only just starting. Judith's heart thundered in her chest, pounding an unrelenting tattoo of fear and exhilaration. The man's laughter rolled around her, a predatory sound that mingled with the tension in the air, the thick, intoxicating heaviness of possibility and danger. She felt both weightless and anchored, as if she were stepping off the edge of a cliff while her body fought to cling to the familiar rock face of her life. Do it, Judith. The man insisted, his voice clawing at the shadows hanging in her mind. Set yourself free. His words sparked an undeniable urge within her, an insatiable longing to dismantle the carefully constructed life that loomed over her like a suffocating shroud. She felt the crowd's energy, a current pulling her deep into the whirlpool of chaos. They surged, their excitement palpable, as if they could taste the change in the air, the crackling promise of something new. Judith. A voice broke through the mass of chaos, her fiancé's desperate cry. Don't let them take you. She turned just in time to see him struggling against the tide of the crowd, his face twisted in panic. This is madness. You don't have to do this. Yet, every instinct within her was drawn closer to the man in the doorway, whose eyes burned with the sort of fervor that made her feel alive and terrified all at once. What is holding you back? He asked, his tone now low and coaxing. Is it fear of losing him, or fear of losing yourself? Judith staggered under the weight of his words. Which fear was heavier? And where was the line between love and suffocation? She understood that their lives were intertwined, but did that mean her spirit had to remain shackled? A chill washed over her as the crowd's chant grew, "Let it go. Let it go." It echoed through her mind, drowning out all reason. The man took a step closer, his shadow sweeping over her trembling form, captivating her. You have the power to rewrite your story, Judith. A new beginning is right in front of you. He extended his hand, his palm open and waiting a lifeline or a trap. With shaking fingers, she reached for him, torn between two worlds. As she grasped his hand, the ground beneath her seemed to twist, warping in a dizzying spiral. A wave of energy surged through her, making her gasp. The faces around her glowed with the fire of wild anticipation, urging her onward into this dark unknown. Stop. Her fiancé's voice broke through the chaos like shattered glass, raw and filled with fear. Judith, don't do this. Remember your dreams, our dreams. For a fleeting second, memories of their plans flickered in her mind, the wedding, the house, the life they were supposed to build. But those dreams felt like shadows now, pale and fading in the brightness of this moment, brimming with life. But what if those dreams were only distractions? Judith shouted over the roar of the crowd, her voice trembling. The man smiled, a dark triumph glinting in his eyes. Exactly. Break free, make choices that reflect your true desires. The sound of cracking wood echoed beneath her, rattling her bones. Judith's heart raced as the ground vibrated with the weight of her decision. Could she truly step away from everything she had ever known? Could she become who she was meant to be? In that electric moment, with the crowd's energy pulsing through her veins, Judith drew a deep breath. Let it go, she whispered, barely audible over the chaos. But before she could plunge deeper into the abyss, a sudden gust of wind tore through, snapping her focus back to the man. Are you ready, Judith? He urged, penetrating her with intensity. Then, the crowd roared, a tidal wave crashing forward, and Judith's world spun. Before she could respond, she felt herself being lifted, swallowed whole by darkness. It was freedom and fear, a whirlwind of everything she craved but never thought possible. As the shadows enveloped her fully, she barely managed to scream, "What have I done?" Everything she knew exploded into fragments, leaving her spiraling into the void. The man's laugh echoed as the darkness claimed her. "Welcome to your true self, Judith." The path just began. What awaited her in this unforgiving realm? Would she find liberation or become lost in the chaos forever? Judith felt weightless as she fell through the abyss. No sound, no sensation, only a void that consumed her completely. Panic clawed at her throat, and she couldn't tell if it was seconds or hours that spiraled past. Was she alive? Was she dreaming? Had she truly let go of everything she knew? Then came a rush of air, fierce and cold, igniting her senses. She gasped, suddenly awake and sprawled on an uneven ground. The darkness broke apart, revealing a strange, luminescent forest that danced with shadows cast by the myriad colors of ethereal light. The air was thick with the smell of moss and damp earth, strange but invigorating. Rising to her feet, Judith felt a force pulling her deeper into the woods. She blinked, trying to absorb her surroundings. The towering trees, their bark a shimmering silver, whispered secrets of the night to each other. A stream of shimmering mist wound its way through the trees, reflecting the vibrant hues. Yet, despite its beauty, an undercurrent of danger rippled through the air. "Judith." The voice was faint but familiar, flickering like a candle in the wind. It drew her closer to a clearing ahead, where shadows swayed and twisted, waiting for her. "Where are you?" she called out, her voice echoing through the ethereal breeze. The familiar warmth of her fiancé's voice filled her with a confusing blend of nostalgia and fear. Had she really left him behind? "Judith." The voice grew stronger, filled with urgency. "You need to come back. This place isn't what it seems." Her heart sank. Was she really ready to turn her back on everything, even if it meant trading her fears for God knew what? Every step forward felt like stepping deeper into a treacherous dream. The man from the doorway appeared in the clearing, silhouetted against the fading light, his eyes glinting with that same fire as before. "You know, Judith," he began, his voice a smooth, alluring melody, "this is the beginning of everything you ever wanted. Don't let his fear dictate your journey." "No." Judith shouted, casting a glance back toward the way she came, toward that voice which seemed entwined with her heart. "I can't just abandon him." The man stepped closer, a predatory smile beneath his dark curls. "But what if freedom means embracing the unknown? What if your fiancé's world is but a cage?" "I don't want this," she protested, her resolve shaking. "Yet you're here, aren't you?" He countered, his tone dark and enticing. "You reached for my hand. You chose this path." Doubt seeped into her heart, feeling like ice against her skin. Judith was torn, the chaos of both realms clenched in her chest like a vice. She could hear the crowd echoing somewhere within this magical forest, whispering, "Let it go." But now her world felt both closed and expanded at once. "Don't make a choice you can't take back," the man warned, stepping closer. She could feel his energy pressing against her, seductive and powerful. "No." In that instant, a thought struck her, a fire ignited within. Judith realized she needed to reclaim her autonomy, her decision not dictated by fear or fated paths. "I'll find my own way." She pivoted abruptly, determined to resist the magnetic pull of this alternate reality. But as she moved, the trees shifted ominously, and the mists coalesced into shadows that lunged toward her, eager to trap her. Judith's breath quickened, terror clawing at her throat as she sprinted toward the dark path she had just left. "I want to be a puppet." She'd scream, but the echoes transformed into hissing laughter that chased her, jeering at the resolve she'd just felt. What will become of her now? The man's voice pursued her through the shadows. What if she can't escape her choices? What if freedom comes at a price? Just ahead, her fiancé's figure lit up a beacon in the darkness. She reached for him, but the shadows enveloped her, limbs grabbing like icy fingers, dragging her deeper into uncertainty. Judith's heart raced with both hope and despair as she lunged toward him, a thought swirling in her mind. Would she ever truly escape this? As they collided in the heart of the chaos, the shadows thickened, wrapping around them as Judith gasped, "What do I do now?" Her fiancé's face mirrored her fear, the weight of their choices heavy in the night. This defining moment would become a question, an endless puzzle. But one thing shone brightly in her heart: she was ready to fight. Yet, as the shadows tightened, Judith felt the pull of the darkness whisper promises too tempting to ignore. Was the choice truly hers, or had she walked into a trap from which there was no return? Judith's heart raced as the shadows swirled around them, their icy tendrils stretching out, threatening to pull them apart. Faces materialized in the darkness, faces of loved ones, friends, and strangers alike, each wearing expressions of dread and disbelief. "You cannot hide from what you truly are," they seemed to cry, their voices mingling into a haunting chorus that echoed in the recesses of her mind. "Judith!" Her fiancé's voice pierced through the chaos. The intensity in his eyes reminded her of their last moments before this madness began. "Stay with me. Don't let them take you." But the shadows hissed. "Embrace your potential," they whispered, drawing her closer to the abyss. "This is where you belong." She felt the world around her dim as she clutched her fiancé's hand, but the energy of the shadows wrapped around them like thick vines, pressing in with an almost sentient hunger. Judith's resolve flickered for an instant. Was there another way? Could she truly find freedom without forsaking everything she knew? "I can't stay, can I?" she murmured, her voice barely a whisper, but her heart loud with agony. The man's face, in all its entrapping allure, surfaced in her mind. Could he be right? Was she indeed destined for something more? Think of what life could be. The darkness crooned, weaving between her thoughts, plucking at her insecurities. "Feel the weight of all your burdens fall away. Let it all go." "No," she shouted, her voice gaining strength. Not without understanding what's at stake. That fierce declaration shook something deep in the shadows. They recoiled, writhing as if in pain. The grip on her legs loosened for just a moment. Judith seized the fleeting opportunity and tugged her fiancé closer. "We need to move." Together, they ran. The luminous trees blurred past them, their silver bark becoming a tapestry of colors flashing in her peripherals. She felt the chilling breath of the shadows at her back, a relentless predator unwilling to relinquish its prey. "Where?" her fiancé gasped. Despite the situation, she could see the worry in his eyes. "Where do we go? This place is shush," she hissed, daring a glance back at the swirling darkness. "We trust our instincts. We've been lost before, and we will find our way again." As they pushed deeper into the heart of the forest, Judith began to notice elements of this strange world that had been obscured, the pulse of vibrant flowers opening along their path, shimmering as if infused with a life of their own. The air hummed, an unspoken encouragement, as if the forest was rallying around them. Suddenly, a cold wind howled, and the shadows regrouped, launching themselves at her again, splitting off into tendrils that screamed with grotesque faces. "You cannot escape your fate," they cried, their voices a cacophony of mockery. "Your heart is heavy with destiny." Judith's heart slammed against her chest, each beat echoing with memories of hope and sorrow. She could feel the forest teasing her, pushing her to confront the truth of who she was and what she wanted. This dangerous world was not just unveiling hidden fears, it was challenging her to acknowledge the essence of her very soul. She skidded to a halt, forcing her fiancé to stop, too. "Wait." "What?" he asked, his brow knitted tight. "I need to confront this." Judith felt the rush of adrenaline surge through her. "These shadows, they are a part of me. I have to face them." "Judith, no." He gripped her arm, fear glowing in his eyes. "You don't know, I have to know." She cut in, determination anchoring her. "I need to understand why I'm here and what it means for us. If freedom lies ahead, I have to take that leap." The shadows lunged again, roaring with darkness that threatened to drown her. Judith squeezed her fiancé's hand, drawing strength from him and the clarity of purpose filling her heart. Together, we break the shackles. But as she stepped toward the advancing shadows, a thought snagged her. What if by choosing to confront them, she sealed their fate instead? Would confronting the truth be her liberation or her doom? As the shadows engulfed her, she could feel the darkness tremble, sensing the shift in her spirit. There, in the chaos, the questions hung heavy like an unanswered prayer. What was waiting for her in the depths, and would the truth set them free or snuff out their light entirely? And then, before she could grasp the weight of her decision, an explosion of light erupted from the forest floor, illuminating her surroundings. A moment of clarity or a new trap? A voice broke through the brilliance, soft, yet familiar and piercing. Judith, do you choose to face what lies ahead, or will you turn back? An unsettling choice loomed. The shadows laughed, a chilling echo that sprang from deep within. Would her determination lead her toward salvation or lead them both to despair? Judith felt the brilliance envelop her, a stark contrast against the oppressive shadows that had clawed at her heels. The light spread like wildfire, illuminating the twisted forms of the shadows that writhed and screamed, their faces contorted in anger. Her heart raced as the swirling mass formed a tapestry of her fears and doubts, threats that loomed large in her mind. What do I do? She shouted, but her voice seemed too small for the enormity of the moment. Her fiancé gripped her hand tighter, determination radiating from him, even as the confusion danced in his eyes. He spread his arms wide, blocking the shadows, a warrior ready to confront the darkness. I'm with you, he yelled, and his declaration sparked something within her, igniting a flame of conviction where fear once resided. With meticulous resolve, Judith faced the shadows, grounding herself in the presence of her own truth. I reject you, she shouted, her voice resonating through the luminous forest. You are no longer my fate. You thrive on fear and doubt, but I refuse to let you define me. In that moment, the ground trembled, and the shadows recoiled, their malicious intentions faltering under the force of her declaration. The man's presence flickered, his smile faltering as he struggled to maintain control over his dark minions. This isn't over, Judith, he warned, as the shadows twisted and writhed, clawing at the light. You can't escape what you are. Judith's heart pounded, but rage surged through her veins. You don't know who I am. I choose my own path. The words rang out like an anthem, each syllable cutting through the darkness. With a sudden spark of energy, the light expanded, pushing against the shadows like dawn breaking through a long night. She felt it, every hope, every dream, every memory crumbling like layers of dust. And yet, beneath the collapse was something resilient, relentless and free. Together, they pressed forward, Judith and her fiancé, hand in hand. As they advanced, the shadows twisted and shrieked, but the light engulfed them, illuminating their faces in a radiant embrace. It was a fierce love that burned brighter than their fears, vibrant and alive, and it surged through them both. A tremor rolled through the ground. The very fabric of the darkness began to unravel before their eyes. Tendrils of malevolence splintered under the weight of their resolve, exploding into wisps as they began to fade. Judith felt the shadows' grip loosen, their power waning. The haunting faces transformed back into the beloved features of friends and family, revealing support and love instead of torment. It's okay, Judith, they whispered, their voices a soothing lullaby against the chaos. You've always had this strength within you. With one final surge of power, Judith gathered all the courage she could muster, looking into the depths of the shadows. You are not my destiny. I am. I will determine my fate. As her voice rang through the forest, the remaining shadows dissipated, revealing a path illuminated with warmth and hope. The man's figure staggered back, energy dissipating like smoke, leaving only the echo of his laughter behind. You may have won this round, but I will return, he shouted before vanishing completely. The light engulfed Judith and her fiancé, wrapping around them in a cocoon of warmth. Judith gasped, feeling her heart calm as she emerged from the clutches of chaos and confusion, transformed into something brilliant. In the wake of the shadows, Judith found herself standing on a hillside, the sun rising boldly over the horizon. The air was crisp and sweet, a stark contrast to the darkness she'd just escaped. She turned to her fiancé, whose breath was heavy with disbelief. They blinked at each other, capturing the moment in their hearts. "I thought I lost you," he whispered, wiping a tear from his cheek. But Judith smiled, feeling alive. "You never lost me." They stood there, bathed in the light of a brand new day, knowing they fought for not just their love but for the freedom to choose their own destiny. Judith felt lighter than air, unburdened by the weight of expectations. "Let us step into our future," she said, determination shining in her eyes. Her fiancé nodded, their hands intertwined like roots of a thriving tree. Together, they walked down the hillside, embracing whatever came next, no longer shackled by the shadows, but free to forge their own path. Hand in hand as they wandered forward, surrounded by endless possibilities, Judith whispered a silent promise. She would never forget who she was or the power of choice that resided within her. And with that exhilarating thought, Judith stepped into her own destiny, leaving behind the dark echoes of fear and doubt, forever embracing a new and vibrant beginning. It's your turn. You need to subscribe now so you don't miss out on the next exclusive stories. Smash that like button now to help feed the algorithm and show your support. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about the ending. What did you think? And for your real friends, don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Together, we're building an incredible community. Join the journey today.